Welcome to the Trend Talk. Today we welcome our new sponsor, Nilo, delicious and authentic fruit juices. We are your hosts, Belle Hernandez
and MARABINA JAIMES. Today's show is about choices. We have a very big choice to make in the upcoming presidential election. So we called in a special guest that has run the California campaigns for two historic presidential elections, one for Hillary Clinton and the other for Pete Buttigieg. Our guest is Cecilia Cabello.
And then we talked to a beloved actor who made the choice of going from prison as inmate number one to superhero machete, to chef, to entrepreneur, to author. He is one of our favorite persons, Danny Trejo.
Don't go away. Belle and I will be right back with Cecilia Cabello and actor Danny Trejo.
The list of key political positions our first guest has held is quite impressive. Suffice it to say that she was the presidential California state director for both the Hillary Clinton and the Buttigieg presidential campaigns. We want to welcome to the Trend Talk, Cecilia Cabello. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It is so great to meet you. I mean, you, of all people, you have a lot of information that we need. But just to give our audience a little more information, tell us a little bit about your trajectory and how you got to be involved in presidential campaigns and all your other fabulous things you've done.
Well, that's a loaded question. I can go on and on for that. Who doesn't love talking about their own story? But briefly, I wanted to see change, and I thought the way through change is by doing it through government. And I worked in government for many years. And then I saw some folks in government, some of the elected officials maybe who could be better representatives of their community. So I got into electoral campaigns. And I'm also a very curious person, and sometimes I could be a risk taker. And if my resume shows anything, it's that I like to take risks. But I mostly follow my heart and my passion, and I'm lucky enough and privileged enough to do so.
Well, you know, this is such a crucial time. I mean, the elections are right around the corner, and it's a very important election. I mean, all elections are important, but this one, there's a lot on the line. And I wanted to start off by saying, for people who have already registered and they're going to go, and then they get there and they encounter a problem, what's the best thing to do, and what kind of problems do you think they might encounter?
I think the most common problem that they'll encounter is not being on the registered rolls, on the rolls for that particular precinct if they decide to vote in person. Now, everybody in California should have been mailed a ballot. If you're registered to vote, you were mailed a ballot. If you still have that ballot, you can hand that in at the polls or at drop-off locations. And if you go to vote.sos.ca.gov, you'll find out where those locations are. But if you want to vote in person, and our community tends to be folks who vote in person, number one, stay in line. Even if the polls are closed, you have the absolute right to stay until you vote, as long as you're in line before the close-off date. So if, say it closes at 8 and you're in line and you're still in line and you're thinking, oh no, the polls are going to close, you have the right, because you are in line before 8 p.m. to vote. If you get up there, your name is not on that list, you have a right in California to ask for a provisional ballot. Anybody in California who's a registered voter can vote provisionally. Now, those take longer to count because they have to verify that it's you and that you are registered, etc. But you have absolutely that right. If you're not in California.
Can I just interrupt a little bit? What is a provisional ballot?
A provisional ballot is essentially a real ballot, a voting ballot, wherein they have to do an extra step of verification to ensure they know it's you. But it will count. It is the same as any other ballot. It's just going to take longer to process. And if you're outside of California, if you have any problems at all, call either 866-866-OUR-VOTE, OWR vote, or 866-687-8683, or just go to vote.org. And that will give you a list of your rights in your state and what you should expect and be prepared for at the polls.
Great information.
Yes, excellent information. So 2020, obviously it's been quite challenging between the pandemic, loss of work, losing, of course, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Wow, but we still have to keep some hope in the opportunity to vote in change. Any comments on your vision of what can change with this presidential election?
I think that what can change is what our community is capable of. I mean, if we rally the troops, if we turn out in the numbers that we actually are, in California, we're the largest group. I mean, we're larger than white folks, we're larger than African Americans, we are the largest voting bloc. If we actually harness that, what that vision will actually be something that we're all going to be hopeful for. But until we do show up in the numbers that we represent, we're not going to see a society and a culture that's going to be, and laws that are going to be treating us equally and fairly. So I have hope that our community will turn out, and will turn out in big numbers.
I wanted to also ask you about a recent interview that we saw you do, and you said something like people don't know how to campaign in California because it's such a unique place. You say California is a unique place in a lot of different ways. There's the propositions, and also that people don't know how to campaign. Can you explain what you're talking about?
I hope it didn't come off as condescending as it sounds.
No.
Folks not from California have a very hard time in an uphill battle learning the politics of California and how to campaign in California. It is such a large state. As our governor often says, it's a nation state, right? So every region, every territory, even within those regions and territories, has their own particular politics, their own set of demographic needs and challenges. And unless you have spent time and invested time in not only in the politics of the state, but the communities of the state and the needs of the state, it's really difficult to navigate. And folks end up doing, more often than not, a very superficial job of it, talking to certain electeds, not really getting in with the local electeds, which I love doing. I come from local politics, and those are the folks who are literally where the rubber hits the road and are responsive to their community. They live in the communities they represent. So knowing those and having those deep relations, and especially for communities of color and the Latino community especially, it is about trust. You have to know that you're not going to just show up every 4 years. You're going to be engaging folks throughout the time in between campaigns. So it's building that trust over time, so that when you come knocking, as I do often every couple of years, you know that you have a good solid network, but they know that you're going to be a good player. You know, you're going to be an honest broker of whatever it is that you are campaigning for.
Right. Well, back to the presidential election, the Electoral College. This is just so baffling and strange. And I mean, can California really make any difference in this presidential campaign if things work out difficult, in difficulty?
Yeah, I am not an expert, and I should have brushed up. I apologize. I'm so focused on, because I'm not on a presidential for this cycle. It is, and I do know it is an archaic and just completely outmoded and undemocratic way of electing a president, electing our future leader. Had we not had that process, there would have been a very different outcome in 16. And it's not because my side lost, it's that states like California, who are the heart of this nation, who produce the food, who produce the ingenuity, the technology for this nation and the world, aren't properly represented in that. So it seems to me very disproportionately stacked against us. However, I think that, the presidential is something very important that everyone talks about, especially with this president. For those folks who are not big fans of his, I will count myself amongst them. We see that it's literally a matter of life or death that we vote. And some folks are discouraged because California doesn't have that outsized voice that it does, like in the primary, say. But what I say to that is, it is not just about that. That is hugely important. Justice is on the ballot. There are so many propositions on this ballot that are really going to affect how we govern and really affect the Latino community, especially for years to come, for almost a generation. We cannot overlook that California always makes a difference.
That was one of the questions that I was going to ask, because everyone is so focused on the presidential election that we mustn't forget that here in California, we have propositions that will affect our lives. Can you mention a few of them? I know personally, as a businesswoman, that Proposition 22 or 21, which is about the independent contractors.
Yeah.
It's 21, right?
21.
Yes. So I know that proposition because that, to me, affects my business. But there's other very important ones. Can you mention a few?
Sure. No, there's a slew of them, and I haven't done my voting guide, as I mentioned to you, Belle, before, that I do a voting guide for family and friends because it is so hard to navigate. One of them that is to me, extremely important is Proposition 15. It is redoing Proposition 13 from the 1970s, I believe it was 1978. Prop 13 basically halted property taxes on residential and commercial buildings, residential homes and commercial buildings. But those property taxes are directly funding our schools. And as a result, you can see California used to have the best schools in the nation in the 60s and early 70s. After that, when I went to school in the 80s, I was lucky enough to not have to go to the public schools in my neighborhood, from kindergarten all the way to high school, because they were not good schools. They were literally, it was the school from Stand and Deliver with Edward James Olmos. My family pulled together their money and sent me to Catholic school. And it was really great. I'm grateful for that opportunity. But what Prop 15 does, it leaves the residential homeowners alone. They're going to stay the same. It just closes the loophole on commercial buildings. And I think that we all see that we're not about being, or I'm not, at least not being about business unfriendly. I understand, especially Latinos are small business owners in large numbers, and it's so important, especially during COVID, to support them. But there are large corporations, because there's the ones that are owning buildings. If you're a small business, you're going to be a renter. You're likely not going to be a building owner. That closes out loopholes for those big money folks. That's a huge one. And that one is something I truly believe in, because it harkens to what opportunities I didn't have and lucky enough to have in terms of going to a Catholic school. There is then Proposition 16, which is the one I'm working on. Back in the 90s during Pete Wilson, he did what I like to call the trifecta of hate against targeting specifically the Latino community. I think most people remember Prop 187, where undocumented people they proposed and it passed that they be denied social services. I mean, if you showed up in the emergency room, they wouldn't treat you. If you were a child born here of undocumented people, you would be denied education. I mean, ridiculous. So much so that I'm lucky enough to be working with Tom Sines of Meldef, who overturned 187. There was 227 that overturned that banned bilingual education, because heaven forbid people know 2 languages, and smart people only do that, right? And that was overturned by the voters a few years ago. The last bastion of that hate, especially that anti-Latino hate, was Proposition 209, which banned affirmative action. And we've seen the result of that. We've lost a generation of Black and Latino students, and even API students were adversely affected, especially when you talk about not just student admissions, government contracts for small businesses. Women, Latinas, make the least amount of money compared to any other group, 41 cents on the dollar to every white man. How is that fair? So what Prop 16 does is it allows government to use affirmative action as one of many tools if they so choose to do so, with hiring and for governments only, for contracting, and for admissions at public universities and colleges, but they are not mandated to. So those are 2 really important ones this year.
So, oh my gosh, Cecilia, it's been absolutely fabulous to have you. We want to pick your brain some more, but it's really been a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for all the tips. And well, we're going to be right back with actor Danny Trejo. So our next guest is an established Hollywood icon. He went from prison inmate #1 to actor, superhero, machete, entrepreneur, chef, and now author. Oh my goodness, and he's come in with a special guest. Who's that?
This is Dixie.
So
a Mexican Chihuahua named Dixie Lou. So
oh, there you go. So
How old is Dixie?
Let's welcome Dixie and Danny Trejo. Hi, Dixie. So cute.
She came right here just like, I want to be on TV.
Oh, wow. Takes after her daddy.
Yes. Well, we have some interesting questions for you, Danny. First of all, of course, it's such a pleasure to have you with us on the Trend Talk. But with all of these things that you have done, I mean, what would you say to your 15-year-old self about all your accomplishments?
I would say, you know what, 15-year-old Danny Trejo, you're not going to believe this, but the road you're on is not where you're going to end up. You know what I mean? And because that's what's important. It's not important where you start. It's where you end, you know, and I plan on ending doing just what I'm doing, you know, trying to do whatever I can for my fellow man. And it just makes the day better. You know, I say my prayers and I promise Diosito, okay, I'm going to help at least 3 people. And some days I go way above that, you know,
I know you do, Danny. You are such a champion for so many people, filmmakers. But I want to first, we'll talk about that, but I want to first talk about all of your, aside from being an actor, all of your success. You are, you know, like we said in the intro, you've taken on so many roles. And one of those roles is being the co-author of Trejo's Tacos, Recipes and Stories from LA, which features, of course, your Trejo's Tacos recipes, but also lowrider donuts, vegan cauliflower tacos, spicy brisket, inspired. That one was inspired by your mom's barbacoa, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you have to marinate that quite a bit. And it came out pretty good. And mom was a great cook. That's all, you know. And you know, like we used to, I used to say just Latino families, but really any family that is living from check to check, the first of the month, they like, you know, they got great. We got enchiladas and carne asada, all this. But towards the end of the month, you got to be creative because, you know, the money's running low and you're waiting for that next check. So I would ask my mom, what's this? It's called out of the cupboard, eat it. It's good. And mom, what's this? It's cállate la boca. That's what that is. Eat it. You know?
But tell me what these recipes say about you, Danny. All of these recipes, because now you're doing cauliflower tacos, but like you said, when you ate cállate la boca at home, tell me, what do all these recipes say about you?
Well, you know what? I honestly believe that they're saying that I'm telling the people, welcome into my home. You know, because this is the way that we wanted to create the restaurants, not just a restaurant. You know, give me a burger. It's a kind of a home, and everybody that has eaten at my restaurant says, you know, this feels like home, and you know, order what you want, and if you want to, I've had people say, you know, could we do this way? Certainly, you know, the cooks will do anything you want, and so we have a menu that's flexible, you know, and it's like me, like I used to go in there and say, give me I want half a plate of nachos, because our plate of nachos is really big, half a plate of nachos with barbacoa and put 2 eggs on top. And you're too over easy, you know. So I make breakfast and lunch together. And now everybody can we have 2? Yes, of course. You know, so we just change. You just do it. You know, add whatever you want, and that's the way I like it.
You have a life of variety. So
Yeah.
basically, that's what it is.
Absolutely, my life is a variety.
And you're sharing that around the world. We heard that you are definitely considered a celebrity chef now. You even been on the Okie Dokie Cooking with the
Oh my
Chef
God,
show.
that was so fun. I never
Okay,
had
you're really expanding your audience now.
I never had, you know what I did? I did one movie I did with the Muppets, and they cut me out of it. They had to cut me out of it, and they were so apologetic, and you know that's the business. You know, I already cashed a check. Don't ask me for the money back. So no. So they were, but then when the next movie came up, they called, and we you know, I had a big role in the Muppets Most Wanted. And then I met Okie Dokie Cook, and he was, God, we made mole, and it was really funny.
Also, like we said a little bit earlier, you're also a supporter of independent filmmakers. And so many young independent filmmakers had reached out to you, and you appeared in their movie. Why do you do that? Because, you know, you have, like we said, big budget movies, but why do you also support independent filmmakers?
You know what I mean? Everything good that has happened to me has happened as a direct result of helping someone else. Everything. I did a low budget movie the way I got into the restaurant business. There was a director named Craig Moss, and a really nice guy, right? And he came around and he had this movie, and he wanted to do it. It was basically a no budget movie, you know, and they'll give you lunch, you know, and a little, you know, kind of
Gas money.
yeah, you know, really, you know, and then I got this other one here for about 25 grand, and I'm trying to talk to these people, and Gloria, my agent, she's saying, you know, Danny, I think this would be a better idea, and I, oh God, it's like, you know, and she kind of just talked me into doing this, and I'm like, this is stupid, no money, and but anyway, we did it. And it turned into a trilogy, so I made 3 times the money, you know. So listen to your agents, all right?
What's the name of the movie?
Badass.
Ah.
It ended up a great movie, right? I told you, listen to your agents, like I do. So, but on that movie, the Ash Shaw, he would make sure that they had real good food on the catering. He was the producer, and the food was good. And I always, hey, way to go, you know. And he said, Danny, you like good food? I said, yeah, I won't eat bad food. I won't eat fast food. You know, and at the time we did that, I think I was 68 or 60, I forget, but I was watching my food and then, you know, being an ex-fighter, you always kind of watch your diet anyway. So I was, he says, Danny, why don't you open a restaurant? And joking, I said, Trejo's Tacos, because me and my mom always joked about opening a restaurant. And my dad, you know, Mexican Archie Bunker, hey, I traigo una cocina, just go cook whatever you want. Don't do damn restaurant. You know, so every time I wanted to make him mad, I'd talk about the restaurant. And so joking, when he said that, I just said Trejo's Tacos. So 2, we did Badass, and then we did Badass 2 for more money, and then we did Badass on the Bayou for a lot more money.
And next, being Mr. World, we want to hear about your next movie, American Gods. Tell us about Mr. World.
Well, Mr. World it starts a 2nd season. It's 3rd season. It's coming up, and I can't say too much about it, but it is an amazing. I'm a shapeshifter. I turn into different people, you know. So it's like, and it was really exciting doing it. And the cast is amazing, you know. And so when we did it, we did it up in Canada, and it was snowing, you know, and it was like, so it's a beautiful, like, I love.
Tell me who's in the cast with you? Can you say that?
They're all like kind of new. Okay. And so I always get confused because I've never seen them, you know, but they're also just such great kids. And so it's like Murder in the Woods was the same thing. It was just everybody. No, they was all brand new kids, and they were so professional and then so nice to me. They were, you know, treating me like Uncle Machete, you know.
You are all our uncle. Everyone's uncle. We love you. We love you in everything that you do. But you also play a pirate in SpongeBob, right?
Bob SquarePants. It was funny. I went to the Super Bowl, and Snoop Dogg was performing, and he was on the stage, and he stopped. He went, "Hey, Trejo, come here!" And then everybody found out I was there, and they started screaming. I went up on the stage, and he says, "Isn't this a hoot? 2 of the oldest gangsters in Hollywood, and we're in SpongeBob SquarePants." So that was a lot of fun working with.
Well, the young kids growing up, they're gonna know Danny Trejo as this lovable character, a person who was on SpongeBob.
You know what? But a lot of the young kids, I don't believe it. A lot of the young kids are watching all the Spy Kids movies because Robert Rodriguez made them, so you don't know that they were done 10 years ago or 8 years ago because they look like right now. And I mean, I have so many. I've heard in probably 40 different languages. Look, mommy, the man from Spy Kids.
Well, he knew what he was doing, and especially bringing you in on Spy Kids.
Robert, I know you're getting ready for Machete Kills in Space.
There you go. Well, we also want to give a shout out to Saturday Night Live. I mean, they immortalized you on Saturday Night Live. Yeah. Pete Davidson created a whole Danny Trejo rap, and
he bought a shirt. Pete, I'll send you a jacket.
Well, we're going to be rapping too, right?
You got
Yes,
this.
we're going to be wrapping. Okay, Danny.
You're in LA, aren't you? You guys are in LA?
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
just call. Let me know when you're coming to the restaurant.
Oh, we'll go. Let's set a date now.
Yeah, we'll go. And when we go, we'll come in saying,
And we'll
my career gonna last just like Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo, Danny Trejo, I'm in everything. Call me Danny Trejo, handlebar, mustache, and like Danny Trejo. My career gonna last just like Danny Trejo. If there is no Trejo, then your movie is wacko. Like a sandwich with no mayo, like gambling with no payload, like a strip club with no ass low, like a rabbit with no task though. So many credits overflowing like a bathhouse.
My career gonna last just like
Danny Trejo.
Hey, Pete Davidson has nothing on us.
Oh, Pete Davidson, awesome.
So much, Danny Trejo.
Well, it is an honor to speak to you with you always.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with our Trend Talk Trendsetter shout out.
Our Trend Talk Trendsetter shout out goes to the American people who make our democracy strong. This election is so important. Please make your voice heard and your vote count like your life depends on it, because it does.
I want to thank our guest, Cecilia Cabello, and the great Danny Trejo. Remember to follow us at the Trend Talk Show on Instagram. And remember, if it's trending,
We're talking.